Nigeria welcomed 1.2 million international visitors in 2023. This is according to the Minister of Tourism, Mrs. Lola Ade-John, who shared the data at the 20th edition of the AKWAABA African Travel and Tourism Market in Lagos. The country also saw a 20% rise in domestic tourism, with 3 million trips recorded, marking significant growth from the previous year. Now, the tourism sector contributed to $17.3 billion to Nigeria's 2022 GDP, and it also employed 1.91 million people. Ade-John has highlighted the critical role of Nigerian youth in driving this growth, with 65% of domestic trips in 2023 made by travelers aged between 18 to 35, and youth-led startups in tourism growing by 150% over the last 3 years. Now, she went on to emphasize the ministry's commitment to enhancing tourism through stakeholder engagement, infrastructure development, and digital transformation. She called for private sector collaboration. Now, why is that I'm really interested in this topic is because recently I've been doing a lot of research on some tourist centers that we have in Nigeria. In fact, one particular tourist center I've focused on a lot recently, and I've been hearing too many complaints about that particular tourist center. Some people talking about infrastructural development, and from their reports in the past 5 years, it has been really bad. In fact, I saw videos and I'm like, this place was really booming before. People would travel from all around the world to come to this particular, and Nigeria was earning so much from that particular move or that particular center. But now, for the past, maybe even before 5 years, it has been the opposite of it. So when we talk about tourism in Nigeria, not to say there are no good places to visit in Nigeria, amazing places that are still functional in Nigeria to visit, but how much do you think we are investing in improving our tourist centers?
Madam Honorable Minister, thank you for the information you gave to us at the AKWAABA Festival, but it's not sufficient.
What is not sufficient? The information is not sufficient?
No. What the information conveys is not sufficient enough. We have, like you just said, there is a tourist center. I don't want to jump into your mind, but I think I know where you're talking about. But I won't want to mention any name on the public space as well. Tourism is big business. Tourism is big business. Some countries thrive on tourism as their #1 priority. Even they don't have natural resources as we do. Tourism. So it's impressive to see the staggering number of tourists that came into Nigeria in the last few years. If you may also notice that these tourists are coming into Nigeria for conferences. You know, so many young people are now involved there are so many youth-led startups, and these youth-led startups are going global. Most of them are bringing in expatriates, foreigners on a daily basis to come speak at conferences, to come witness, to come listen to people who are pitching their ideas. This is a welcome development, but we can do more. She said there was a contribution of about $17 billion by the tourism sector to the nation's GDP. She also said there is an employment of about 1.9 million people in the tourism sector, and there's an increase in youth-led startups in the tourism sector. So these are good things. These are good things. The government must then see a way of investing in this. So now let's come to a particular point of understanding. When you come to talk about tourism, we must understand that one thing that Nigeria lacks is maintenance. We have beautiful sites set up. The next thing, maintenance drops it. Another thing is politics. We tend to politicize everything in this country. There's a time for politics. There's a time for governance. Nigerian politicians, to a very staggering tune of 90% in my assumption, let me not say by statistical records, in my assumption, do not understand the clear difference between politics and governance. Governance is the time where you eschew all political differences. Regardless of party affiliation, you come to the table to make the citizens feel the impact of your leadership. Politics is when we wear the political cap with all the political affiliations, with all the party affiliations. That is politics. All the gyrations. We go to battle. We go to war.
So our politics is war. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, we go. The political gladiators come out with their sword, and then everybody, and then you eventually are declared winner.
Okay.
When you are declared winner, you come to what we call governance.
Okay.
But we don't understand that. So you see that we have tourist attraction in wonderful places in different states in the federation. That at a particular time, when a particular government was in power, they prioritized it. Yeah. It was booming. People were coming from all over the world. They had festivals going on. People were coming in. I think you know I'm getting to the point of the place you know. And people were coming in from all over the world for festivals, doing this annual festival, showcasing our cultural heritage. People came in with their own cultural heritage as well. You see, people were even planning ahead of time. It was in people's bucket list to come into that festival, to come just to have a feel of
even if it's just once in a lifetime.
Exactly, just to have a feel of those wonderful, colorful, beautiful decorations, and you know those train lines, those things that just move you and you're enjoying yourself, and it's like, oh, a time to rest from all the stress.
It seems you've been there recently. Were you disappointed? Because it's beginning to sound personal.
So disheartening that another government comes into power and abandons it.
Okay.
Politics. I don't want to continue. Let me use the political party names now. We are PDP. Let's not continue the APC.
But there's a minister. There's a minister that is in charge of that, probably in that particular state.
A commissioner.
Oh, a commissioner.
The commissioner is appointed in this state by the political affiliations of the governor. The governor appoints people who worked with him, who fought with him in the elections. Those are the people he appoints to become commissioners. The same thing with the president. Those are the people he appoints to become ministers. You hardly see appointments coming from the place of technical know-how. You see that a professor is minister of
depending on the field the professor is, but
a
we
professor
get your
in
point
education
anyway.
is minister of sports somewhere in Africa, in Nigeria.
Is it completely out of place?
And a professor of law is minister of sports, for instance, and a former sportsman.
Is that a problem?
It's a problem because you must put people in the place that they fit, in the place of their strength. In the place of their strength. You see many commendations going to the Minister of Works currently because he is an engineer in his field.
Yes.
So his choice of concrete materials and all that should be used in the road constructions are deep and well rooted in his technical know-how because that is his field. So at the end of the day, put people where their strength is. So you look at these people, the commissioner for tourism. He was appointed by the governor, who is maybe an APC governor, and then the predecessor was a PDP governor, and then the APC comes with their own agenda as against the PDP agenda. And we've been rotating it between APC, PDP. They just choose. Now Labour is now a prominent party after the last election. All right, let's go back to the maintenance.
You mentioned two issues now. You talked about maintenance, then you also talked about politicking, right?
Exactly.
Instead of governance. But let's go to maintenance now. Do we completely peg it on the government? There are people who are also placed in charge of these facilities to maintain them. Are they really doing their job?
Good. Maintenance begins with, you can't leave the government out of so many things. So let me just tell you, you can't leave the government out of so many things because let's look at this tourist attraction. is built by the government, for instance. People are employed to work in that facility. And then they are doing their jobs. Suddenly, it's time for maintenance. We apply for maintenance budget. You know, one time I was at your studio when I think one of your other presenters was Flora or some. I talked about orientation. One of the biggest problems of Nigeria is orientation. We have a corrupt system that has cascaded from both leadership to judiciary to legislature and to the populace, to the citizens. So we need a kind of reorientation. But before I get to that point, let me begin with the government, because what the head is what the head is doing, it will go down to the others.
Okay.
Now, when the budget for maintenance is raised, let's say it's a budget of 10 billion naira. In that 10 billion naira, because of lack of patriotism and poor orientation, the powers that be have padded that budget. They have added their interest in the budget. Now, when the budget now flies to point of approval, somebody in the approval space will say, is my interest captured in this budget? I'm telling you plain what happens. Now, when the budget approval procedure is ongoing, probably they have all added their interest and it is done. The budget is released. Funds are released, disbursed for maintenance. The man in charge of that facility, the director general, is called on the phone. So you have to send my...
So that means what you're trying to say is before it gets to the actual people who would maintain it,
the money is slim and macheted. Emaciated. It has gone to bones, not skin again in the money.
So everybody has a role to play in that.
Orientation. Everybody has a role to play in maintenance. So when you go and see these kind of things happening, so that's the side effect of negative governance.
Is it just orientation? How do we solve this problem? Is it just calling the people and letting them understand what's going on? I think there should be more measures, carried out to put a stop to that. Because that's like a culture in a lot of sectors in Nigeria, so as we have heard, as reports have it.
You can only wave out a culture by training people. That's orientation. So you have to give them proper orientation. I think the last time I was on your studio with you, I talked about proper education from the onset. We don't teach our children to be patriotic. I tell you the truth. Go to every secondary school in this country. I'm telling you, facts. I work with young children, young adults. Go to every secondary school in this country. Ask them about Nigeria. It will shock you. It is appalling to state that the children already have a negative idea about the country. They will tell you the common phrase, who Nigeria help. I beg, make a hear word. You will hear children.
That what they hear on a daily basis?
They have seen it. They hear the news. They watch the news. They have parents. Most of them live in the slums. They are suffering. Most of them see what is going on in other societies. They have access to internet. They have access to the social space. And they see what obtains in every other place. They already have a negative mindset about Nigeria. Bring in the common man to office today. He also has a plan to embezzle. If he doesn't want to embezzle, his family wants him to embezzle. Oh boy, we cannot be there and we become poor. When you are there, let us go. Let us have our own share.
And then we hear a lot of youths actually make these statements, even though they fight the present leadership and say this is going on. Yes, so where do we even start from?
Orientation. You can't rule out orientation. Orientation and reorientation.
Don't we have subjects, since you talked about the schools, don't we have subjects that talk about being patriotic in Nigeria?
The teacher who is teaching the subject is already frustrated with Nigeria. You are teaching civic education and you are already frustrated with it.
So where do we start from now?
You see?
So who should do this teaching now?
When things are going, everything must go in hand in hand. Let me borrow a leaf from Rwanda. A genocide-hit nation. Abandoned. Relegated to the background. Suffering from colonial masters. suffering from stigma, suffering from all of these things. Most people would not even want to hear the name Rwanda before now. But something happened. The presidency began to take quality steps and invested heavily in orientation and reorientation. They began to bring in orientation programs to all levels. And then Rwanda is what it is today. It will not happen in one day. I know when I talked at one time in your studio, I said, young people should get into politics. Do the right thing that you're clamoring for to be done. Go there, do it. When you are not able to succeed, resign. It may not work that day, but you sent a statement. You've made a statement. It continues. Little drops will make a mighty ocean someday. But let's begin. We have to begin somewhere. Rwanda did it. Look at Singapore. Singapore did the same. Look at the leadership of Lee Kuan Yew in Singapore. He came in with a corrupt Singapore. Reorientation. He called all the corrupt people. Come back. Don't take the money away to run. Don't worry, there will be no litigation against you. Come and invest that money you stole here in Singapore. Invest it. Read about Lee Kuan Yew. That's what he did. Reorientation would always win the game. It may take some time. Pastors, one of the places the people have been made to believe that Nigeria cannot work again and the church is the salvation of Nigeria, which is wrong. The church is going to bring salvation of Christ to the soul of man. The church is not the salvation of decayed industries. The church is not going to be the salvation for dysfunctional industries. The church is not going to be the salvation for all of that. We must get back to rebuilding industries. Don't tell them that the church will salvage the country. The church will salvage individuals, purifying their minds and changing them. But the church is not going to, the salvation of these people is not going to build the industries. If I had to build industries, quality, political implementation of policies must be done for these things to work. So when people come to church, the church is one place that has, not just the church, the religious organization, the mosque, is one place that has a great hold on the mind of people.
So you're saying for the orientation, we have to go back to the schools?
Everywhere.
We have to go back to our religious organizations.
Everywhere.
For the orientation.
Media houses.
Is that all we're going to pin it on? Is that where all of the solution lies?
When there is reorientation, you're also bringing in policies, like we said. While that is also going on, you are bringing in harsh measures for defaulters.
Okay.
And then when that is going on, you are ensuring that nobody is above the law. Because if Mr. President's political aide violates the law and gets away with it, Mr. Governor's political aides will also do the same. The high and mighty offices, political offices, will do the same. Who is going to respect the law? Nobody. You set the law, you flaunt the law, and you want us to respect the law. It's not going to work like that. So when I say reorientation, these are the things that will be captured in the orientation process.
All right.